Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to Brilliance Business. I'm Mark Stephen Pooler, conversations with leading experts in business. And we have a wonderful guest for you today, Dan Doré. Before I get started and bring Dan into the broadcast, I just want to give a shout out to our official main sponsor, Craig Shelley, Beverly Hills Luxury Watches and Fine Jewellery at craigshelley.com. So let's get started with the show. We have the amazing Dan Doré of DORE Property Management. Dan, it's great to have you on Brilliance Business. How are you doing today?
If I was doing a bit better, Mark, it may be a bit dangerous. Let's put it that way. I'm doing great. I hope you're doing great as well.
Well, thank you for coming on to the show. I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you today. You are a super successful guy. We have so much to talk about regarding business. I would just like for us to start the conversation with your past and what led you to where you are today, Dan.
Yeah, my past is, I'm from Ottawa, Canada. So I was born and raised here. I still live here. Born from some very, very supportive parents. I have a brother and sister. I'm a very proud husband and dad. And I got involved in real estate initially, primarily because when I wanted to buy my first house, I wanted to keep my costs low. So that solution for me was to buy my first house with a rental apartment. And from there, really enjoyed the business of being a landlord, an owner, and eventually, took that knowledge and built myself my own portfolio, and then realized along the way that there's a lot of people like me that understood the positives of real estate ownership, but would never get involved because they don't want to deal with the day-to-day needs and requirements of owning real estate. And a really good friend of mine suggested I start a property management company because I'd be able to help a lot of people get involved in real estate and take advantage of all the positives that come with it. And I thought about it long and hard for about 24 hours and actually decided to start a property management company. And from there, things, like any business, if anybody's here listening, everybody started a business, that it tends to be fairly difficult to do so. And I heard somebody along the way refer to the fact that starting a business is like a series of false starts. And that definitely was my experience as well, where you start, you get a few contracts, next thing you know, some people sell, and all of a sudden, whatever traction you'd started all starts again. And in property management, it's not huge commissions or huge fees being charged. These are built on volume. So, it had to be done over years and perseverance. And thankfully, I have that trait where I just don't give up when I know I'm going in a direction, whatever it takes, that's where we're going. And I'm glad to have persevered over the years, because that attracted some really, really, really great people around me that make up for Team Doré today. And we've served, countless owners with thousands of rental properties in Ottawa over the years. And we are actually on a mission now to serve 10 times the amount of people that we are currently serving. So yes, that's 10 times. So 10 times the amount of people for property management, 10 times the amount of people for our real estate holdings and investors. And we're quite excited to be on that journey right now. So that's a quick recap.
Amazing successes, Dan. And I would just like to know some of the steps you took in the beginning to get started with DORE Management, because when you're just sharing, we did this, it sounds very an easy process. There have got to have been some struggles and challenges along the way. So just share some of those with us, Dan.
Yeah, so it's it's a bit, I would say if I knew what I had to do today, maybe I would never have started. But I'm just kidding. I'm actually really glad I did. But it was interesting because at first I needed the leverage to be able to go out and stick my neck out and start a business. And, where I was working, I hit a point where I knew that I either was going to have to accept that this was what I was going to do for the rest of my life or not. And I was probably in my late 20s when that happened. And, I was like, either I stay here and I'll be here until, I don't work anymore, or I take the leap and really go out and build something for myself. And that leverage is likely what got me, motivated to go out and do something. And to never look back, really, because I got enticed to go back to a job on countless occasions, and with very, very interesting packages and so on. And you know what? I just knew at that point I had to be in business for myself. I had the entrepreneurial spirit, and there was no way I was ever going to be satisfied not pursuing those dreams. And so that is, if anybody's taken on that journey, you understand what I'm talking about, right? This is, I couldn't be bought. There's just no way. It had to move. And, making the decision it came with time, but then it was a matter of thinking, what does one do to start a management company? Like, how does that happen? What do we do? And I always laugh because even my dad reminds me of that today, where at one point, somebody, when they had suggested I get involved in property management, I wasn't necessarily sure what that role meant. And I had, as a joke, I bought the book called Property Management for Dummies. True story. And just trying to get a sense of what that role would be. And what was interesting is that most of those things that were suggested in the book are things that I was actually already doing for myself. So it wasn't very different than what I already knew. And so I realized I wasn't as much of a dummy. But to scale out and actually build a business, there's countless steps. At the beginning, my dad was nearing retirement, and he had started getting all of the classified for rent ads that he would find in every newspaper. Because in those days, we weren't using internet to advertise our rental properties. They were all in the newspaper. And he would have like this little Excel spreadsheet where he would pull out all of the numbers, all of the ads, and he'd put them on a spreadsheet, because I had a full-time job still at the time. And he would give me a list, every week, and I would cold call everybody. And, if anybody's ever done that, that that's the worst of the rejection you can get. And I just as much as it was like getting slapped in the face every time, I'm like, I'm not counting the no's, I'm counting the yeses. Like, how many yeses can I get off of this 25 list names today, right? So it just kept going, and it was discouraging, right? I mean, I'd had people hang up on me, swear at me, and I laughed because I used a story the other day where somebody I was calling, he didn't realize I was calling to offer services. He thought I was calling to rent the unit. And when he realized that I wasn't calling to rent the unit, he kind of got upset with me. And he started swearing because he felt he had lost his time. And he wanted to hang up. And I was so used to having people just hang up politely that I had figured out a way. I said, okay, I gotta make sure every time somebody says no or whatever, that I have to have that key line that I put in there, so at least they know I'm legitimate, right? And so I would just say, before you hang up, just make sure we're a legitimate company. I have a website. Here's the number. Here's the website address. So if ever you change your mind going down the road, feel free to reach out. and that was my closing line before they would hang up on me. And that worked because, that one gentleman that started swearing at me called me a few weeks later and says, what is it exactly you do, right? And then I explained to him that we facilitate ownership, right? By taking care of filling vacancies and dealing with the tenants and collecting rent and making sure repairs and maintenance and everything was done, and that, the communication was done, and kept records of everything and kept you abreast of having everything done on a monthly basis. And he eventually became a client. But I still remember those days where, we just go through it. And then I had this other gentleman I called at one point where, I noticed that I think he had like 9 ads. So I said, maybe he's doing the same thing I am. Maybe he's, invested in real estate and he's doing it himself. And that was kind of a bit of my break, because that one time I called him thinking he may just be a competitor or somebody else that was doing exactly what I was doing, but it wasn't the case at all. He had his own rentals and he hated filling the vacancies. Like, he hated it. And then he, I don't know if he was trying to call my bluff or whatever. He says, well, come to my office, on Monday, or I forget exactly. And I showed up at the office. And, when they always say, I'm a big believer in never burn your bridges. Even if you get a bad experience with somebody, you should never burn your bridges, even though you may have been mistreated. Treat everybody properly. You just never know who's listening. You never know, where this can lead you. And at one point he asked me, what's your background? So I went into my background, and, I own a few rental properties at the time. And I used the name of an employer. And he says, well, I know him. He's a friend of mine. I said, great. So he says, I'm going to call him and get a reference from him. Perfect. Go nuts. I said, if you call him, you'll hire me tomorrow. and he never did, because I've always had a good reputation with everybody that I work with. So it was not an issue. But that was the catalyst, right? Where he hired me to manage his 9 units. And I'm like, wow, I just signed a 9-unit contract. And at the time, I don't know, maybe I had like 3 or 4 under my belt. And I had a 9. I'm like, wow, I got double my volume in 1 week. And that's the nice part about being rock bottom, is you can't go really much lower. You can only go up, right? Right. But it gave me a boost of confidence, right? It gave me a boost of confidence because we were able to fill out all these vacancies. And it's funny because this is probably about 20 years ago, and he's still a client today. He never grew his portfolio, but to this day, he is still a client. And so it's interesting. But you go through these struggles, but it's, people talk about struggles. They ask you, like, what's that one key to success, right? And I'm like, the only thing that I hear most entrepreneurs say that rings a bell with me is you just never give up. Keep pushing forward. Just keep going, because the only way you can fail is if you stop moving forward. Just continue pushing. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday, because tomorrow's another day, right? So just keep pushing. So for me, I have that mentality. I'm not perfect. I'm human like everybody else. But I have this trait where I just won't give up. Like I won't give up. And sometimes really bad things happen. And sometimes maybe I laugh in very in times where maybe I shouldn't laugh. But it is what it is. It's my comedianism, and I just keep pushing. But I when you go through the struggles, it's just a series of struggles, right? That's what it is. You just don't stop. Just keep moving. Right? I was texting with a friend this morning, and he's asked me how it's going. I'm like, man, with what I'm working on right now, I said, it's waking me up really early in the morning. It's waking me up at night. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'm full of sweat because I'm really pushing outside my comfort zone. But you know what? That's part of the fun, right? Like, I mean, will all of that succeed? Well, I don't know. I hope it will. But I think it's, we just keep pushing. So that's, to say struggles. Yeah, I go through struggles every day. Like, I mean, it is what it is, and you keep moving. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it gives you a bit of the feedback on how it all got started. So.
It definitely answers my question, Dan. I resonated with a few things there. I myself used to be a hairstylist. I managed to retire from hairdressing January 2020, which it's a good job I did it at the right time because obviously the pandemic hit in March. So I had done hairdressing for 20 years previously to that. And it's scary, but when you're an entrepreneur and you want to change what you're doing, sometimes you do have to take that risk. And once you do leave a job, it gives you the full focus to be able to really put all efforts into the business that you do want to build. So I really resonated with that. Also, what I am taking from what you have said, getting good at handling objections. You were mentioning on phone calls, when you're an entrepreneur, having good sales skills is vital, and being able to handle objections in the right way, because that can really be win or lose situation. If you can handle objections, you can turn people from a no to a yes. But those skills are vital, definitely, in entrepreneurship. And you do have to get used to failure and people saying no. I remember the beginning of my social entrepreneurship journey. I was just getting no after no after no. I wasn't good at selling. You have to really get used to the journey, get a thick skin, get used to the no's, and really get those skills under your belt. And as time passes, you improve. Do you agree with what I'm saying there, Dan?
Absolutely. And I it's so funny you say you stopped hairdressing at the beginning of 2020. How's that for timing? Now that's impressive. But yeah, no, I fully agree. You know, I heard a quote at one point from Tony Robbins where he talks about, you know, the best way to go all out is use the analogy of, you know, you're on a boat and you go to an island, and how do you make sure you never go back to the mainland? Is just burn the boats. So there's no way back. Right. And that was a bit of what I did when I had my job. Is I told my employer that I had been I'd been working for probably a dozen years. And I mean, I wasn't just an employee. Like I was running his business and working 6-7 days a week on most weeks. And I loved it. But the advancement wasn't there for me. Like I was capped. And so when I told him that I wasn't going to leave him stuck, but I was going to start a business and I was going to relieve myself of certain duties on his store so he can hire somebody else to take it. That was a bit of my version of burning part of my boat at the time and going there. But I think you hit it on the nail where, you know, you have to be able to have some salesmanship, some to be able to have thick skin. But I think also to be self-aware enough to readjust as time goes by, because sometimes you may have a strategy that you think is the strategy that'll work. And I'm telling this to my team, right? Like we were having this discussion this week. I said, you know, we want this result, but if we're not going to get that result, we will keep changing and adapting until we do. Because we may think we have the solution, but if it's not yielding the results that we're expecting, then we need to adapt. And I said, the only promise that I make to everybody is that we will keep changing until we hit the results we're looking for. And I think and it boils down to, like, for us, the culture, you know, with the team is like, I like to surround myself with some really like-minded, you know, high energy, you know, positive people that really want to push the boundaries. I really, you know, this is what the types of people I like to surround myself with. And you know, that when it comes to that, you know, I use what I call the smile factor, right? If people are smiling, even in chaos, then that, you know, that's the biggest gift that I can get every day, because it means we're having fun doing what we're doing. And for me, I choose to have fun with everything. And even in the stuff that happens, sometimes you'd rather not happen. You're like, okay, so Christmas is going to hit everybody at the same time. And how do we deal with it in the meantime?
Great points. Great points. I myself, I carried on building my business outside of hairdressing. So it took me about 4 years of doing something online while still having to do hairdressing. I wasn't passionate about it anymore, but I was scared to leave the job because it was guaranteed money every month. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, it can be a bit of a roller coaster at times. But I finally made that jump in January last year, and I have had one of my best years ever in business. But I think you're really, you've hit the nail on the head with you have to change and adapt as time passes, because it's really important. I think the whole pandemic thing has really shown that, and probably forced a lot of people as well to change and adapt when they don't want to as well. But that is a really important skill in business, to be able to change and adapt with the times. Out of interest, Dan, what kind of jobs did you do before you were a super successful businessman?
Yeah, it's my first ever job. And my dad, it was interesting because I didn't even know at the time, but he suggested, I don't even remember how this all happened, but I was delivering newspapers, and I'd have to check with him. I don't remember what time, like at what age, that was, and I don't remember I was being paid like a quarter of a penny per newspaper or something like that, or half a penny of a newspaper. And I had a route, it was 144 newspapers. And twice a year, I would have to deliver the Sears catalog. So I don't know if anybody, the thick Sears catalog. And my dad would actually pity me because it was so heavy to bring him that he would follow me with the car so I could deliver them. Right. So that was my first job, but it taught me to, I could actually generate a few bucks here and there on my own. And it was fun. Right. And I had this real passion for dirt bikes and four-wheelers and everything when I was younger. So it actually it brought me to be able to buy my first mini bike. And then after the fact, once that came to play, I with school and all that, I actually started working at a local restaurant, local rotisserie, cleaning dishes. And one of my older cousins was actually the manager. And funny enough, I was able to start there when I wasn't even at age to start. So, but I just wanted to work, and I was cleaning dishes and having fun doing that. No, I'm kidding. I hated it. But in the restaurant, actually then took over what they called the roaster. So I was actually would roast the chicken. And so we, would start roasting chicken and preparing chicken early in the morning, so we could, serve the crowd at night. And then I actually was with school. They had these co-op programs where you go work somewhere to learn on the job. And I actually there was a local furniture, appliance, and electronics store that was independently owned in our area. And I tried going in, and I couldn't. Like they wouldn't take me. And then one of my uncles and aunts was actually neighbors with the owner, and they went to him and they said, like, do you realize Dan would go work for you for free, like half days for one semester? And he's like, oh, I thought I had to pay him. so he hired me for free, but. So I actually started, and I was so shy. Like I wouldn't even want to answer the phone. Like I was really, really, really shy, introverted, but it was interesting because those were the years where they started opening up retail stores on Sundays. And nobody at the store wanted to work on Sundays. They didn't want to open the store on Sunday, but they had to, to be able to compete with the others. So they offered me to work on Sunday and be paid for those 5 hours. I'd open the store at noon, answer the phone, help with bills and take out furniture and all that, and close at 5. And then from there, then it really opened up my eyes, because then I would see what it was to have employees that abuse the system, people, how you treat clients, how you deal with sales and closing deals. And then, I think I was 16 or 17 years old when that job took over. And then all of a sudden, I finished off school, then I was managing the store, then doing all the accounting, and then running the store, and then the owners were out. So I was very fortunate to learn business on the job. And that's the job that brought me to my late 20s, where I hit a point where I just knew, like, the owners were very, very comfortable, and good for them. And but I knew that I either would have to settle for what was here, or decide to make a move. And I decided to make a move. So, but I love that job. Like, I really love that job, because it gave me the ability to run somebody else's business and learn everything. Like, I mean, they loved me, and I loved doing what I did. So, because I learned every aspect of the business. So, yeah, it gave me a lot of the basic knowledge to be able to run my own. What's that?
It takes me back, actually, because I delivered papers when I was younger. Not for long, though, because it's really, really hard work, especially in the cold. But I also had to work in a butcher's as a Saturday job. That was horrific. I had to stay in the freezer, moving the meat around, scrubbing blood off walls. I didn't last there long either. But Dan, I have really enjoyed the first part of the show. We have been covering everything from Dan's past, what he has done as jobs, what he does now a little bit. He has also been sharing some great tips. So we are going to go to a commercial break. Join us shortly.
Starting from nothing, Dan Doré built a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio and facilitates real estate ownership. Born and raised in Ottawa, Canada, Dan has been invested in real estate for over 2 decades and is the founder of DORE Property Management. Rated the #1 property management company in Ottawa, and with an A+ accredited rating, DORE Property Management and the DORE team is just getting started. DORE's focus is on helping people benefit from real estate. By using his leverage and resources, property owners and partners see an advantage in the market, giving them peace of mind and time saved. With Dan Doré, it all starts with team culture and high responsiveness as he delivers results and impact with his growth mindset. Joining you today, please welcome Mr. Dan Doré.
We are back. I'm joined with Dan Doré. We have had a great conversation all about Dan's past. What an incredible intro there as well, Dan. That is really impressive what you have achieved. So let's dig a little bit deeper into DORE Property Management. Tell us a little bit about the service that you provide there.
Yeah, so essentially the role or the offering is to be able to facilitate rental property ownership. So that's the macro, right? The macro meaning you can own rental property and not do any of the day-to-day requirements of ownership. So whether it's tenant placement, dealing with tenants, rent, maintenance, repairs, inspections, anything of that nature, we facilitate. So essentially what we've done over the years is we've allowed people to get involved in real estate, whereas in many cases they would have never gotten involved in real estate. And I have countless stories, that go in. I've had an owner that had real estate for many years, and he hated dealing with it because he had his full-time job, and then he would have a tenant issue or anything. And he says, it wasn't every day, but he says when it happens, it always happens at the most unopportune time. So, and I always say, the reality is, you don't have any issues until the day where you have a really stacked day at the office and you can't deal with it, or you're just about to leave on a family vacation, or you're sound asleep and you're dealing with a leak or an emergency at one of your units. So we come in and we offer the service to take over all of that, meaning that you invest. And in some cases, we invest with the clients as well, meaning that we have equity in the buildings. And that's a bit of a lot of transition that's happening actively right now. And then from there, we take over the operations. So it's a matter of, if we have to fill the tenancies, we do. Now, obviously, that it brings a lot of steps to the mix when it comes to advertising, pictures, going through the screening process, showing properties, rental lease, getting deposits, running credit checks, changing utilities, doing the inspections. There's a host of different things that need to be done, and then making sure that your tenants are happy, because the reality is as much as we say we're in the business of property management, the reality, it doesn't happen without people. And so we're in the business of people and making sure people are happy. And when they're happy, then generally your investment gains a tremendous advantage when you have the right people residing in your unit, paying rent, taking care of it, and happy, right? So that's in a nutshell what DORE Property Management does, and we're really good at it. I don't want to toot our own horn, but we always get checked with people who do things from a similar nature. So what you have to understand is, in our business, there are some that are doing it on a very small scale, where they don't have the leverage to be able to deal with everything that happens at once, because they just don't have the resources. They can't afford the resources. And then you have, some of the other big players, but in most cases, all they do is they just manage their rental property. So they don't offer it to third party. For somebody who has, say, 50 units and says, I don't want a job managing these units. Like, who's going to deal with it? If I give it to the small mom and pop shop, and no disrespect to them, but they won't be able to deal with it, because if they are on holidays or somebody's sick, then everything stops, and they can't bring it to, some of the development type managers, because they don't manage stuff they don't own. So we feel a very, very crucial niche that allows people to invest in real estate, get all the advantages of capital appreciation, cash flow, depreciating the asset for fiscal reasons, and being able to take over, to reap the benefits and not necessarily inherit a part-time job because of it. So we come in and we fill that niche, and that's what we aim to do. So.
I really like that, Dan. And obviously, it's been a testing year for the whole world with the global pandemic. How has it been for you in general? And also, how is it for the real estate market? Is it still a great time for people to jump into real estate? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so it's been an interesting year, obviously, for everybody in every sector. I think for us, it's been, we haven't been too affected. I mean, we've had a bit that we've had to readjust, obviously, with certain protocols and so on. But for the most part, generally the market that we serve hasn't been too impacted. So we haven't had too many issues. But I guess where I felt my blood pressure go up is in the province of Ontario, where we're located in Canada. In mid-March of 2020, the premier here, the premier of Ontario, announced that it would be, there would be a memorandum on evictions, meaning that we couldn't evict anybody, and not that we want to evict anybody, but it definitely is our leverage when somebody is not paying or so on. But they shut the court system completely. So not only couldn't you evict anybody, but they wouldn't hear your case. So at that point, I'm like, whoa. Like if people band together and decide not to pay, that could be disastrous obviously for our industry, And all of the trickle up effect that actually brings is if a tenant doesn't pay and then the landlord has any issues and the landlord can't pay their property taxes, their insurance, then their mortgage, and then the lenders, end up taking property back and so on. It's just a big mess that could be coming. But thankfully for us, we didn't see too many of it. We saw a few, but very, very minor in comparison to the volume that we manage. But we were proactive in dealing with it. So one of the things that we did is, we had one of our team members, the most empathetic person on our team, take on the role to call not just an email, like literally call on the phone and ask them how they were doing, just to make sure that, we could be there to assist with them. And if they're having any issues, that we could try to remedy the issue before it becomes out of hand. And this, and it's funny because we have signs here, and our motto is, rent from people who care. And we got to showcase that in 2020, where we would actively reach out and make sure. And the instructions I gave to my team members say, if you hear anybody that's struggling, whether, they're in quarantine, they can't go get their groceries, their medication, whatever, like, go ahead and get it. Like, just jump in your car, charge me the bill to go get it. Like, just make sure everybody's happy. Everybody's taken care of. And, if somebody can't go get their groceries, get a grocery list, go get the groceries and bring it in. Let's make sure people are well served, because we don't want anybody suffering. Like, sometimes, what we hear in property management, a lot of times we get inquiries about people who have problems with their tenants. And they want to know, like, how do I kick my tenant out? And I'm like, we didn't get involved in this business to put people on the street, right? Like, for us, it's about continuation and relationship and so on. So we, everybody needs to be successful in this journey. The tenant needs to be employed to be able to have a property that they can live in that's safe and well taken care of. And we need to have them pay so that all of the cycle can continue. So when you get any break in the cycle, it's not good for anybody. So this year we had to adapt that way. Thankfully, we didn't. The effect was minor. But one of the things that I set the tone very quickly with the team is, as I indicated at the beginning, we are on a journey to serve 10 times the amount of people. And I said, just because of the pandemic, we're not going to be using that as an excuse. It's not time to rest. It's not time to slow down. It's not time to say, oh my gosh, this is happening, we're just going to wait. No. We keep pushing and offer services, because all of a sudden, when, people may need the service even more now. So we have all the resources to be able to help them. So you'd be doing a disservice to everybody by withholding our services. We know how well we do our job. We know the value that we bring to the table. So we will not slow down. We keep pushing. And that's what we did. And thankfully, we kept growing this year. And I don't mean this to sound in any way, shape, or form like we're aggressive. That's not the case. We're really looking to serve people, right? To serve and add value. If we can't add value, then we'd rather not be involved, right? We have to add value to the mix, and when we do, and we feel we do, then that's great. It's a win-win for everybody. But we are, Yeah, and at this current stage now, like, our province is in another lockdown and stay-at-home order as we speak. So obviously there's a lot less people on the road, but people need a place to stay, and things happen, and people change jobs and they need to move. So we're considered an essential service. So we've continued operating, but we do it safely, right? Like, we don't go out. We completely disassociated ourselves from trying to be in contact with anybody. So if somebody's moving out, we install lockbox, so they just put the key in, let us know when they're gone. So we make sure there's no interaction. We go in, do our thing, and then leave the key back in and then give the code to the next tenant. So we do everything we can in our power to limit any interaction. And obviously we definitely want to play our part in limiting the spread. And so we've had to adapt that way, but time will tell. I mean, hopefully we're heading into the later stages of this pandemic. So, yeah.
You mentioned some great points there, and it just goes to show that there are challenges in every business, and especially in these current times. But also you mentioned customer service as well, and so many businesses unfortunately get customer service wrong. I really look after my customers, and like you, it's not just about money, it's about building those relationships, because then it's more long term and it's easier to keep customers rather than to get new customers as well. So I like your points on customer service. So we have about 12 to 15 minutes left of the show, Dan. I'm really enjoying a conversation with you. Just give us 3 tips for anyone out there looking to get into real estate and rentals, maybe budding entrepreneurs or people who have something to invest and they're interested to get involved. What would your 3 tips be for them to get started?
Yeah, it's a question I get asked often. It's funny. I actually answered somebody last night on LinkedIn exactly that question. They're like, how does one get started? Right. And the first thing I always say is educate yourself. Right. Because I think what ends up happening where people lose or do things that they're not comfortable with is they get involved. They don't necessarily know what they're getting involved in. Because in real estate, there's a lot of different categories. We specifically run in the residential space. So we don't do industrial, office, commercial, retail. We're specifically in residential. And so if somebody's looking for commercial, then we gently tell them that we're just not the right fit to have that discussion. So the first thing I always always suggest is get educated. Get educated on the real estate and what is it exactly you want to do? Like, what is your objective? What is the outcome you want out of this, right? Because if you buy real estate, say, for example, like in the space we're in and the philosophy that we use, we are in the buy and hold game, not the flip, not the short term. There's no short term, gain generally. Some people play that game. It's not our sandbox. That's not what we do. Like, we are really buy or build, hold long term. So it's the same analogy as a farmer that farms, that has cows for milking or cows for meat. Well, we are in the business of cows for milking. So we take care of the cow, we take care of the real estate, and we want it to, provide cash flow for the years going forward. So I think that's the first thing you do, is make sure that you are educated, at least have an idea of what it is you want and find the objective. And then number 2, depending on, which route you want to take, then you got to figure out, is this something you want to do on your own, or do you want to, partner up with somebody else to get that done? Because generally speaking, if you're doing it on your own, like in the residential space, I would highly recommend that you start small. And I say small because generally if it's small, it shouldn't keep you up at night. And if you make mistakes, generally they're not large enough so that you have to exit, very quickly. So I would suggest you start small. And if you do it in partnership, then, do the research on the people who are doing it. Like for us, if somebody's investing with us, we want you to make sure you know the game we're in. Right. So if you're looking to, to buy a house, to renovate and flip, then you should see very quickly that we're not the people to do that. Right. And if you are, doing commercial or office, or you want to do that game, we're not the right fit. And we would tell you. But if you're doing residential and you want to be part of the game, and you recognize that there's an obvious advantage to have the management company involved in the ownership, because obviously we have an ownership stake. We have a vested interest in making sure that that the asset is maintained and keeps growing up in value. Not that we wouldn't do it if we didn't have ownership but obviously it should bring comfort to anybody that's doing it, that says, maybe, I'm invested with them, then they have, not only are they looking after my interest, but their interest is being served at the same time. So it's, our goals are aligned. And, and then number 3 is, try to figure out, like, at the end, like, what is your end goal? Like, what do you want? And this is oftentimes when people approach us, we ask them, like, what are you looking to get out of this? Are you looking to, just lend money on a short-term basis? Or are you looking for equity? Or are you looking for something that's, a 5-year, and then you get your money out and then redistribute somewhere else? Or are you in it for the long haul? And those are questions I think that are necessary to answer before you get involved. And I would say the likelihood most people don't have that thought process, figured out at the beginning. But those are 3 tips I would highly recommend to anybody that's looking to get involved to, before you go in. So, and we'll have, if you're looking for something in the residential space, or you have something in the residential space in our area, and you want to discuss the potential of us investing with you, or vice versa, reach out to me, right? We'll have a conversation and see if we're aligned, and if we are, great, we continue further. If we're not, that's okay. We keep in contact, and you just never know. And I always say, I'm not sure exactly how many people are going to see this, but we may have our a next investor listening in, or you may have the requirement for somebody like us, for a company like us to be involved in your project to make it successful and bring peace of mind. So those are the 3 things really quickly that I would give you as 3 things to think about. So,
tips. Yep. Great tips, and that will support anyone who is interested in taking those first steps. Now, Dan was recently on an event with Robert Kiyosaki, the event organizer Sunil Tulsiani, many other great speakers. I was part of the event as well. I have got to say, Dan, you really have a stage presence, and your speaking skills are amazing. Anyone out there looking for a great speaker, get in touch with Dan. I highly recommend him. You must have felt great being on the same event as the legend Robert Kiyosaki.
Actually, Robert's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I read, I think, when I was in my early 20s. And it really, and I speak about it in that, I spoke about it at that event, where it actually just changed the trajectory of my thought process when it came to money and real estate. And so it was an honor to be able to be part of it. And at the end, I was able to ask him a question point blank, which was quite interesting. And it was interesting because this was my first ever speaking event, and obviously it was virtual because of the pandemic and the shutdowns. But it's speaking. It was something that had been recommended to me on multiple occasions in the past, and I've always shied away from it simply because of comfort. Right? It's for anybody who knows it, it's not necessarily comfortable to be in front of everybody having a discussion. And but then Sunil and a few others actually made a suggestion that changed my whole mindset. They said, just be Dan. Just don't try to script anything. Don't. And that was like, okay, that took all the pressure off my shoulders because I can just be myself. I don't mind having conversations. I don't need to be front and center on anything, but I don't mind having conversations. And if I can just be myself, and that's acceptable for the speaking world, then I'm glad to be part of it. So
you were great on stage, Dan. Now you're doing it all over again. You are speaking at the Capital Raising Boot Camp with Michelle Romano, Kevin Harrington, Sunil Tulsiani. I will be there also again, Dan. Tell us a little bit about this event.
Yeah, so this will be a different topic. I think the first one I went into a bit of my history and property management and some of the mistakes that people make. This one here is really going to be about, how capital is raised. And I'll go into some of the steps that I've used to raise capital, and hopefully being able to share that, that experience with people out there that may be, in the realm of doing that. So we'll be sharing that. And it's quite interesting because like Rachelle Romano is obviously part of the Dragon's Den in Canada. So she's very well known, and we always like her energy and her demeanor and her feistiness. I really like seeing that. And then Kevin Harrington being one of the original sharks on Shark Tank, being part of the event as well. And Sunil and his team at the Private Investment Club just, bring all this credibility to the table. And we as speakers have an opportunity to be part of it. And I'm really looking forward to it. Like, it's interesting because I'm obviously working on the speech now and the presentation, and I've changed it countless times, and we'll have fun with it. I mean, we'll have fun with it, and I think it'll be a great event, and it won't be the last. So I'll be nice to see you virtually there, Mark.
Yes, I will be there. I'm also part of Private Investment Club, and I'm really looking forward to it as well. And Sunil's a great guy. He's been very supportive of me, my journey. We collaborate together a lot. As of you, Dan, I've interviewed you a couple of times now, which is amazing as well. Dan, I have really enjoyed a conversation with you today. We have been talking all about where Dan has come from, his past, his jobs, what Dan does now. We have talked all about Dan's amazing DORE Property Management. We've talked about tips and guidance of support for people getting into real estate through the pandemic. We've talked about your event. We have a couple of minutes. Is there anything we did not cover that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think the last thing that we can share with the audience as well is that I'm also, on top of these nice initiatives that we're taking, I'm also soon to be author. So I'll actually have 3 different books coming out this year in 2021.
Congratulations!
We won't get too. Yeah, so hopefully won't be too many delays. But I have one book where I'm sharing a book with Robert Allen, the famous No Money Down guru of real estate, which is kind of interesting. Also co-authored another book with Kevin Harrington as well that talks a bit about capital raising and that journey. And I'm in the process of finalizing my book, on property management. So it'll be a full book that I'll be written on the my experience in property management, and sharing it with the with people who are interested, and so it'll be fun, I think, to release that sometime, I guess, from here to the end of 2021. So,
well, I'll look forward to that. And when you are launching your books, we will get you on the show again, Dan, so we can talk all about the launch of your book. I've really enjoyed having you on this show today, Dan. Thank you so much.
Yes, this was a lot of fun, Mark. I always like doing these with you, and I was actually excited to be part of this morning. So I thank you again for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure, Dan.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.